I think one of the hardest categories when it comes to making a tire is the sport touring tire, because not only are you looking for sport bike-like performance, but you also want longevity. Long distance tours like to have a tire that'll last a long time, but also want that cornering performance that normally you associate with sport bikes and sporty bikes like that. Metzeler has been one of the leading manufacturers when it comes to sport touring tires, and their latest innovation is the Roadtec 02 behind me. So there's a lot to get into with this tire. You might think that tires are just round and black and sticky, and they are. And there's a lot to talk about with this. And while I don't claim to be the expert on everything that goes into a tire, I'll try my best to explain what the Roadtec 02 offers. So if you're ready, let's go. Okay, so we'll start actually with the rear tire for just a second here. The main thing you'll notice, maybe not the main thing you'll notice, but one of the things you'll notice is the broad profile, whereas like a sport tire will have more of a curved profile, a sharper profile for that sharp handling. The flatter profile here is more for stability at high speeds and for long distance touring. So the Roadtec 02 comes with a stiffer carcass because of the increased weight of today's bigger sport touring bikes. So you need that stability from the stiffer carcass to give you that confidence feeling when you're going quicker or just going in the corners. From the Roadtec 01, the Roadtec 02 has a slightly stiffer carcass, but that's kind of offset by a slightly more malleable tread compound, which in the front is 100% silica. Another cool thing that Metzeler was going for here is what they call soft and hard performance, soft and hard handling. By that they mean soft handling is more, they don't want to use the word slower speed, but we're going to use the word slower speed. Soft handling meaning slower speed. So these actual grooves in the tread design are meant to flex and deform at slower speeds. To that deformity, that flex gets more heat into the tire to enable them to come to temperature faster, which means they get to grip at their optimum and at their best. And obviously these grooves allow for water evacuation when you ride in wet conditions. And then the hard handling, which translates into faster speeds, actually what Metzeler was saying, these narrow profiles right here, all along the center of the tire, these narrow profiles will actually at higher speeds, they'll come together. That deformity will make them come together so you don't have this groove within the rubber. It becomes one central band of rubber to give you more of a contact patch on the ground, especially important when you're leaning the bike over. So it's this dual personality, you could say, of the tire. Yeah, like I said, these grooves help it evacuate water at slower speeds and help deform at slower speeds to get more heat, and then at higher speeds they actually come together to give you a bigger contact patch, which is what you want on the road. And then when you move to the back tire here, the rear tire is a dual compound. There's a harder compound in the center than on the sides. The side compound, there's a higher silica content compared to the Roadtec 01, and that softer compound encapsulates about 80% of the side of the tire. The same applies here with the technology that allows the adaptive tread to band together at higher speeds for more contact patch, and at slower speeds allows more deformity to get at a higher operating temperature sooner. The technology is called cap and base technology. There's an underlying layer of compound beneath what you can see here. That's the harder material to give the rear tire more structure for more stability. And then that's also what's in the center here for more longevity down the road for a touring application. The cap is what you see here on top. That's the softer compound on the sides that allows for that flex and that grip when you're cornering and doing higher speed type stuff. More interesting facts about the Roadtec O2. These tires here, the Roadtec O2, is Metzeler's first take in the bio-based recycled material market as far as tires go. Metzeler says these tires contain 43% bio-based or recycled materials. That's the biggest number they've used in tire technology in their history. So the interesting thing with the Metzeler Roadtec O2 versus the Roadtec O1, let's get back into it here. If you're familiar with the Roadtec O1, you'll know that it has, you can just look at photos of it on Google or whatever on the internet. There's a ton of grooves and a ton of sipes within the tire. The Roadtec O2 here has comparatively far fewer sipes and treads than the Roadtec O1. The water evacuation, they say, stays the same as the Roadtec O1, but one of the benefits of the reduced tread footprint of the Roadtec O2 is less noise and less vibration for a more calming, more relaxing ride. You may or may not appreciate that sort of thing when you're riding. You might have your tunes playing, you might be wearing earplugs or whatever, but that's the kind of thing that tire companies, cars or motorcycles, have to pay attention to, is the comfort of the rider and the passenger beyond just like bumps in the road and things like that. They actually do have measurements and tests designed to measure how much sound is being output by the tires over X speed and over X distance. And yeah, you'd expect the Roadtec O2 would be quieter than the Roadtec O1. But that's an interesting thing, right? Me personally, I don't necessarily care about such things. I mean, I wear earplugs and I've never really even considered sound quality when I ride, but hey, good to know. I think for me, the bigger takeaway here and the bigger test that was performed and the bigger improvement that the O2s offer than the O1s, at least according to Metzeler, is in their wet testing. Metzeler says that this new design, they have to incorporate the new technology of motorcycles into the design of tires, right? And a big part of that is the safety nets, the electronic features, and in this case, ABS. If you've ever applied ABS when you really didn't want it to be applied, you'll know when you hit that brake lever and that pulsing sensation kind of creeps you out, right? Because you want the bike to stop, and that pulsing sensation makes you feel like the bike is not stopping quick enough. Metzler's test with the Roadtec O2 showed consistently, not only was there less ABS intervention than the Roadtec O1, there was just less ABS cycles. So it allowed the natural mechanical grip of the tires to contact the road and slow the bike down versus that safety net of ABS kicking in compared to the Roadtec O1. Ultimately, that means when you've got less ABS intervention, and even when you do hit the ABS cycles less than it did with the Roadtec O1. All in all, that means ABS is working less, allowing the actual brakes and the actual mechanical grip of the tires to slow you down, and what that results in the real world is an actual feeling of you hitting the brakes like you intended to. All confidence inspiring, and that's really the goal with any tire, right? So what's happening now is we are here at the Isle of Man. Obviously, I'm here in a stuffy and boring convention center banquet hall type of thing. But pretty soon we're gonna go outside and ride multiple bikes in what I can only describe as crap weather. But hey, it's the Isle of Man. What do you expect, right? It's super cold outside. I think it's like 45 degrees outside Fahrenheit. It's supposed to rain if it's not already outside. Downright awful conditions, which actually is probably where some sport touring tires like the Roadtec O2s will shine. Not every day is a fantastic day at this job, but we are at the Isle of Man. We do get to ride multiple bikes today. I think life could be worse. So I'm gonna go ride and I'll tell you what these tires are like. All right, as you can see, the weather is terrible. It was raining, it just got worse over the day. It was really cold. The fog rolled in later towards our ride and really made conditions difficult. Not ideal conditions to be riding a motorcycle in by any means, but actually might be the conditions that we don't normally get to test sport touring tires in. So in case you couldn't figure it out, I won't have any dry weather impressions for you, but what I can give you are a lot of wet weather impressions and cold weather impressions. So despite how terrible the conditions were for riding a bike, what I can say is that the tires were never a concern of mine, because thankfully there was a lot of other things going on and the tires provided pretty secure grip, stability, and confidence over the course of our ride. And if you've seen any crashes at the Isle of Man, you know that there is no light crash at the Isle of Man, and so falling off the mountain was not something I wanted to do. But the way the Roadtec O2 handled the roads was impressive. I mean, we were going at much slower speeds than the racers do around the TT, but there were portions of the ride where we were going at a decent clip, especially in the wet. And whenever we had to make direction changes or around a turn, it was fairly confidence inspiring. You know, there was no sliding, no untowards inputs from the tires that I didn't ask for. It holds the road well. Now I did feel that broader profile of the rear wheel made the bike a little bit slower to turn, but that also could have been the byproduct of just me losing confidence just with how cold it was and how wet it was and not knowing the road. So it's a little hard to say either way, but it was sure-footed. I can say that. The tires were sure-footed going through the wet roads, through the curves on the mountain. It really didn't have any negative aspects to it. Putting the power to the ground, I'm sure the electronics on the BMW I was riding were kicking in a lot to make sure that there was very little to no spinning up. But that goes back to the tech I was talking about earlier and how the tire companies have to incorporate the safety rider aids to make these rubber compounds adaptable and malleable for the conditions. And if the bike I was riding was cutting out, I certainly didn't feel it. Now, under braking was a similar story. Putting that front brake on and putting all that weight on that front tire felt good. It felt sure-footed, and I didn't feel like I had any moments at all. Granted, it's not like I was really braking super hard, again, considering the conditions, but it was nice knowing that that footprint of that tire, the front tire, under braking was removing as much water as it could and trying to grab hold of the pavement underneath. And yeah, for a wet tire, if you do a lot of wet riding, the Roadtec O2 is an impressive tire. I can say that much. Honestly, there's not a whole lot more I can say because, well, as you know, the conditions weren't great. So I'll leave you with that. Hopefully one of these days we can get a set of tires back and ride them in some dry conditions and see how they stack up there. The good news is, if you are interested in the Metzeler Roadtec O2, they are available in pretty much every popular 17-inch size for pretty much every sport touring and even light sporty bike sizes. So the 110 and 120 front, and then all kinds of rear sizes from I think a 140 profile up to about a 200 is the range that they go for the rear. So basically, no matter what you ride on the sporty sport touring spectrum, the Metzeler Roadtec O2 will have you covered somewhere along the way. Yeah, that's it. Sorry I couldn't give you more from a dry and sunny Isle of Man, but a wet, cold, and foggy Isle of Man will have to do. As always, go to Motorcycle.com to read the full review of the Metzeler Roadtec O2. There's more diagrams and more words and more details there. Yeah, that's it from the Isle of Man. Thanks everyone for watching. Ride safe, and as always, we'll see you later.